Good evening to all my UMBWs. UMBW means upwardly mobile Black women. It's your girl Cherie here for our Wealth Wednesday, usually Money Monday, but I got tied up on Monday, so I'm here today. We're going to put our 90-second clock on, give people a chance to come in, hit the like button, and if you're listening to the replay, put replay in the comments. That way YouTube can know. All right, here's our 90-second clock, and then we're going to come back and talk about some of the top stories for today with regards to money. Here we go. Welcome to Black Women Making Money. We are the home of the upwardly mobile Black woman. For exclusive content and invitations to our Inner Circle Zoom meetings, which happen on a monthly basis, you can sign up for free for our email newsletter at bwmakingmoney.com. That's bwmakingmoney.com. UMBW's in the house. Welcome to tonight's session. A couple of Money Monday conversations that, of course, had to be brought on to Wednesday. I was busy with just work, lots and lots of work. I'm still behind a little bit, but, I want to come and see you ladies, say hello, put a one in the chat. Let me make sure you can hear what we are talking about this evening. We have a couple of different stories. We're going to talk about Warren Buffett this weekend announcing that he is stepping down as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. If you don't know who Warren Buffett is, he is considered the foremost investor in the country, if not the globe. So we're going to talk about Warren Buffett. Second person we're going to talk about is Jerome Powell, the Fed. The Fed actually had their meeting yesterday and today, and they did not lower interest rates. They didn't raise interest rates. They kept things the same. So we're going to talk about that and some of the things that you want to think about with regards to your money. And then the third thing we're going to talk about is the birth rate numbers came out for 2024. The birth rate numbers are abysmal, and People's, at least online, People's is scared. So I'm going to talk to you as a UMBW, talk to you about how to protect yourselves, all of that stuff. So Denise is in the building saying, hey, ladies, and giving me a one in the chat. Thank you so much, Denise. All right, so we'll see how long tonight's conversation is, but I did want to come present some information to you with regards to what's happening with the economy, what's happening with our money. We're also going to have, I didn't put it on here, but we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening at the ports, what's happening with these half-empty ships from China. Today, the president is supposed to meet with China. I think it's today or tomorrow. I was reading up a little bit about it. We're going to see what happens. I'm telling you right now, brace for anything with this administration. So we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about a lot of different things. I always tell you to just focus on you, focus on the main thing. And the main thing is whatever your technical skills are, make sure they are super smart. Technical skills doesn't mean technology, it means in your career, there are certain things you need to do in order for you to be successful. I want you to be at the top 10% of your technical skills. Some people call it competence. Are you competent with what you're doing at work? That's number one. Number two, you got to have your soft skills, team cooperation, team management, leadership, communication skills. All of that is important for you to stay an upwardly mobile Black woman or get there. The third thing you're going to need, always talking to you about your multicultural networks. I see a lot of racial division online. I'm telling you right now, it's not good. It's not good. Stay out of it, right? There are things that I would like to say about certain things, and I might have things I can't say on YouTube. That's when we go into Zoom and we have our conversations. But I'm telling you right now, don't comment under people's stuff. As a UMBW, this is all I can suggest you do. I don't comment under any of the racially charged stuff on social media, one way or another. I keep my opinion to myself. If I want to share it with somebody, I share it with somebody very close to me in a situation where it's not recorded or anything like that. Because, we're going to see what happens. But you are going to need, like I said, your technical skills, your soft skills, your multicultural networks, and of course, your financial literacy and resources in order to be able to make it. Denise is saying here, it sounds like Brother Jerome still wants higher unemployment to lower the rate. Well, it's not necessarily what he wants. It's not necessarily what he wants, but in order for them to lower the rate, they do have to feel like either the unemployment is going up, which means that the economy is softening, or the inflation is going down. The inflation is still too high, Denise. The inflation is still too high to the point where they're scared of something called stagflation. And stagflation is happening when the unemployment rate is going up and the inflation or the prices of goods are going up as well. So, this is where the tariffs come in a little bit and where everybody got wonky when Trump started announcing all of these tariffs. It's because he wants to put tariffs, he said he did, whatever, on all of these goods coming in from all of these different countries. And the United States is a consumer driven economy. So you're going to have the prices of eggs aren't going down. I was able to get my ice cream yesterday for $5.99 or $4.99. Sorry, but I will tell you, I went into Ben and Jerry's. Sorry, I went into Ben and Jerry's. I went into the grocery store, one grocery store, and my Ben and Jerry's was going to be $7. Shoot, I was like, inflation got me. I walked out without my ice cream because I was like, oh heck no. So then 2 days later, I went to another store and it was $4.99. I was like, okay, that's a little bit better. But yeah, so what they're concerned about, Denise, is that the unemployment is going to go up and the prices of everything is going to go up as well. You may have seen that the president now is talking about putting 100% tariff on movies that are made outside of the United States. Well, guess what? A lot of movies are made outside of the United States. They're American movies with regards to like the people we see starring in them and the fact they're speaking English and, the scripts were written by Americans, but there are a lot of movies filmed in Canada, in Europe, in other parts of the globe, and now you want to add tariffs to that as well. So, yeah, um, but it's not what Jerome wants. It's not what Jerome wants. The other thing I will say is Trump has been saying, "Oh, I'm going to fire Jerome Powell." I have told you this before, and I think Diamond Dave has either said it or he's hinted at it, but I think he's pretty much said it outright. Uh, President Trump does not have the power to fire Jerome Powell. There are people who are more influential and more in a power position than the President of the United States, including Donald Trump. And when those people, I think it's the bankers, I don't know who it is, but when those people decide to get rid of Jerome Powell, that's when Jerome Powell's going to go, and not a second beforehand. So that is why Jerome Powell is like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. He's getting his orders from somebody else. And yeah, that's what's happening with Brother Jerome. So we'll see what happens. And Flo Jersey's in the building. Good evening, Flo Jersey. All right, let's talk a little bit. Oh, Rana's in the house too. Hey, Rana. All right, let's talk a little bit about money. Ladies, it's Money Wednesday. Let's talk about what's happening in the economy here. First thing is we were talking about Jerome Powell, the Fed holding the rate steady. Let's hear what is happening with these rates.
To 4.5%, but seeing a higher chance of stagflation. They didn't use that word, but here's the language they did use. They said the risk of higher inflation and higher unemployment have risen, both of those together in the same sentence. They went on to say a further increase in uncertainty. There's a further increase in uncertainty around the outlook, adding that word further to the prior statement. Also noting that swings in exports have affected the data. That's why we got to that big negative GDP number, and they took note of that for the first quarter. But saying economic activity still continued at a solid place, the unemployment rate has stabilized at a low level, and that inflation remains somewhat elevated. So all of that basically in line with our understanding of the hard data. They say they are watching risks on both sides of the mandate. The decision was indeed unanimous. Quantitative tightening will continue, and the committee is prepared to adjust monetary policy as appropriate, which is a language that they've used in other times. Guys, this notion of the risk of both higher inflation and higher unemployment have risen. It really underscores that idea of there being risks to both sides of the mandate, and the Fed apparently being no closer to figure out which one needs more careful attention from the Fed yet. The Federal Reserve keeping interest rates.
Okay, he said a whole lot of gibberish. I'm going to translate it for you, ladies. I'm going to translate the gibberish into normal talk. Here's what it is. So Rana mentioned stagflation, asking what's happening. All right, here's what it is. Here's what's happening. Okay, so when they look at the economy and the Fed is able to basically increase or decrease rates based on what's happening in the economy today, the historical data that they've seen, and where they think things are headed, right? Okay, perfect. So right now there's a lot happening again with the Trump administration. This is not a bash Trump place because we don't do that. We also don't, rah rah Trump either. At least I don't, right? Okay, but he's got a lot going on. He's trying different things. He's saying different things. He's putting out different things, and the markets are reacting the way that it is. With stagflation, what they're saying is that they are wondering if the unemployment rate is going to get higher, and at the same time, prices for our goods and services are going to get higher as well. If both those things happen, again, both prices of our goods and services go higher and higher unemployment happens, that's when stagflation happens. That's stagflation. So, why do we think that the prices of goods are going higher? Y'all know me. And, at least people commenting, y'all have been around me for a long time. What did I tell you when Donald Trump got elected. I said the prices ain't going down, right? I wasn't going to direct you incorrectly. I said the prices ain't going down, right? But now we're worried that the prices are going up. Why do we think that the prices are going up? It's because of the tariffs or the threat of tariffs. It's because, inflation happens every year no matter what. The question is inflation going to be 2% or 3% or 5 or 10%, right? If the tariffs go up, yes, Trump is saying, hey, China's going to pay for the tariffs, but that's not true. These retailers are going to say, oh, the price of that good is going up by $20. Guess what? We're going to tack it on to the price on the retail shelves. That is what's happening on one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is they expect higher unemployment. Now, usually when there's higher unemployment, the price of goods go down. The reason for that is because there's fewer people working and you want to stimulate the economy, so you reduce the interest rates. But now, if you have higher unemployment and super high inflation, which one do you choose to protect against? Do you choose to protect against the higher unemployment? If you say, yes, Cherie, I want to protect against the higher unemployment if I'm Jerome Powell, great. If you do that and you lower the interest rates because you want to protect against the higher unemployment, guess what's going to happen? Inflation is going to go through the roof. Inflation would go through the roof because you're reducing the interest rates, which means that more people would be able to buy goods and things like that. If on the other side they say, hey, we want to protect against inflation, right? So we're going to keep the interest rates as high as they are right now and, try to get the prices to stabilize a little bit more. Okay, well, guess what? People aren't going to be buying as much, which means that people are going to lose their jobs. People are going to lose their jobs. So, that's what's happening right now in the economy. How do you protect yourself? The same stuff I've been telling you, whether the economy is good or whether the economy is bad. Get your technical skills together, your soft skills, your multicultural networks, have financial literacy. You want to talk about practical things you could do, and y'all can put some practical things in the chat of things you could do. Obviously, one thing to do is go through your bank statements over the past 3 months. Anything that you haven't used over the past 3 months, like subscriptions and things like that, get rid of stuff. Get rid of stuff, maybe use the envelope method for the next 6 months until things get right, right? The envelope method is basically, hey, I'm going to take some money out after every payday to get my hair done, my nails done, grocery shop, things like that. And once there's no more money in the envelope, that means I'm done spending, right? Some other things you could do to protect yourself is go to your bosses or your boss's boss and get as much training as you can. Get them to increase your training budget if you need them to. Get skilled up. You don't have to pay to necessarily get skilled up. Your boss may pay for that, or your boss's boss, especially if you're going to make them more efficient. It is important for you to skill up. It is important for you to skill up on your soft skills as well as those hard skills, right? Those technical skills. Maybe you want to be like Notary World, shout out to Notary World here, and you want to get your notary. Maybe you finally want to start that side business. Now's the time to do that as well. I had a regret a couple of days ago. I was like, damn, I should have taken that notary course in October when I had the chance. But, um, But yeah, maybe that's what you want to do, right? And please, please, there's a lot of racial stuff happening on the internet right now. Please do not get involved in any of that stuff. I don't care if it is Carmelo Anthony or Shadura Sanders or any of these other people. They are not going to be here to pay your bills. Or the 5-year-old autistic kid that was called the N word. Whatever you have to say about these things, say it behind closed doors. Do not put it on the internet. If you want to protect yourself, now's the time for us to be on defense and not putting ourselves in a position where people are looking for reasons to take away our livelihoods. It doesn't mean you don't have to feel a certain way about it. There are a lot of things I will say that I won't say on YouTube about this whole situation. You all know me as a UMBW, as just a person that comes here. I tell you to be very strategic and play chess, not checkers. Play chess, not checkers. So let's see what you all are saying here. Denise is saying, speaking strictly from what I see at my office, when a person leaves, they are not necessarily replaced. Yes, maybe it's 3-1. That is exactly right. Dr. Dix was on with Erica last night, and even he was talking about it. So, especially with artificial intelligence and AI is getting smarter and it is getting more capable. If you, like, usually when you would have somebody leave a job, either they would replace the person or they would take that person's work and divide it amongst 3 or 4 other people. Now they could take that person's job, take half of that job, give it to AI, and give the other half to you, or give the other half to somebody else. So this is where you need to be strategic. So this is where the skill collection actually comes in. This is where the skill collection actually comes in. Even my boss was like, so I run a division of our company, and he was saying to all of us who run divisions of our companies, we had to cut things in our budgets. Cut things or cut people. Yes, he did. So, Notary World is saying, I just saw an article saying by 2034, the traditional job will be obsolete. So you'll have to create your own job. This is true. I don't know about the year, but more and more people are going to go from being W-2 employees to being 1099s. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's true. So you are going to have to create not only your own jobs, but your own opportunities, which is why your multicultural networks are going to be so important. And I don't know why we don't have more people, especially more Black people, hammering that in. We know the DEI wasn't going to save you. DEI was never going to save you. However, having a diverse network will, especially if that diverse network knows you are competent and you can do your job. Denise is saying, I'm thinking about going to the NC Notary Conference this month. Good for you. Why not go? Definitely go. See who's there, see what's there. Ron is saying the racial stuff is happening real time in public. I know. So I'm saying be strategic. Be strategic before you get involved. So, and Notary saying I zoom right past that content. Good for you. Good for you. So let's talk about the next thing that we have going on here. The first boats carrying Chinese goods with 145% tariffs are arriving in Los Angeles. Shipments are cut in half. Expect shortages soon. A couple of days ago, had to have been about actually maybe 5 or 6 days ago, because it's been almost a week. I was in one of our local stores and the shelves were empty. In certain rows where you expect to see certain types of goods, the shelves were empty. And it was the first time I actually stood in that aisle for a few minutes because I was like, wait, there's usually this in this aisle, and there's usually that in this aisle. And what's going on here? Let me know, ladies. Let me know. Are you seeing or starting to see some empty shelves or emptier shelves? Usually you would see like a whole section of stuff, and now you're seeing maybe three or four where you used to see 12, 13 of a certain product. You can let me know if you're seeing these things. So, one thing Erica said a couple of days ago, and she is right about this, is that the stuff that's coming in today is the stuff that's going on the shelves for the summertime is already in the United States. It's already in the United States and in the stores or in the distribution centers. The stuff that's arriving today is stuff for September, October, November. We'll see how Christmas goes. You're saying not yet with regards to not seeing the store shelves emptying. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. Ladies, you can let me know if you're starting to see some of the store shelves being a little bit emptier. But this is saying American consumers are on the cusp of tough choices. Ships now pulling into U.S. harbors from China are the first to be subject to the massive tariffs that America is imposing on Chinese imports. That means in a matter of weeks, consumers will face higher prices and shortages of certain items. Imports from China have fallen dramatically since Trump's imposed the tariffs, particularly since last month. Um, this week, we're down about 35% compared to the same time last year. And these cargo ships coming in are the first ones to be attached to the tariffs that were levied against China and other locations. That's why the cargo volume is so light. So, this is also saying here one more thing. The Port of LA had expected 80 ships to arrive in May, but 20% of those have been canceled. Customers have already canceled 13 sailings for June. So, ladies, if you or your parents or anybody in your life are taking medications, I would check to see where those medications are coming from. And I might tell you to stock up. Ladies, let me know what other things you should be stocking up on. Because China is not just about selling you cheap t-shirts and cheap goods, right? China makes some strategic things. And it's not just the goods from China, it's the goods from other locations as well. So being strategic about, hey, what are the things that I absolutely need that so for me, my main concern is not necessarily that I'd have to pay a higher price for something, even though I don't want to pay a higher price for it. My main concern is I would need something specific that I use all the time, and I would go to the store and it's not there at all. Rana's saying, I heard it's coming from India. Okay, so you think that China's going to send it to India and then from India it's going to come here? Maybe so. But here's the thing, Rana, what that would reduce the tariffs per se, let's say it does. But if it has to stop in India, isn't that an additional cost? Because it would have to stop in India. Like it wouldn't be doing its normal ride here. So it may not be 145% tariffs, but whatever additional tariffs, if there are additional tariffs for India, plus whatever the cost of it actually stopping in India, changing paperwork, all of that stuff. And once the prices go up, they don't come down generally. So you're saying more tariffs. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just saying be aware. And yes, India's been at war with Pakistan. been at war with Pakistan. That's nothing new, right? So yeah, um, FloJoes is saying contact lens products during the Ovid issue, this was rarely in stock. I can definitely agree with that. So, in fact, I've got to order some contacts. You make a good point. So, like literally going through your medicine cabinets, ladies, like over the next few days, looking at everything you use regularly and say, is this something that I really want to stock up on now? That's what I'm going to be doing. So, all right, let's talk about the next thing. Talk about the next thing that's happening, and that is Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett announced his Berkshire Hathaway. Let's hear news here with regards to Warren Buffett. And this news came out over the weekend.
A big news today out of Omaha, Warren Buffett announcing that he will be stepping down as CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. Buffett shocked the arena full of shareholders with the announcement that he will be stepping down and Greg Abel would become the CEO by the end of the year. Buffett has been in charge of the company since 1965, said that he has zero intention of selling a single share of Berkshire Hathaway. Buffett announcing the news at the end of a 5-hour question period.
The time has arrived where Greg should become the chief executive officer of the company at year end, and I want to spring that on the directors effectively and give that as my recommendation.
The news that was not expected. Buffett surprised Abel, who was sitting right next to him, with the announcement. He said he had only told his 2 children. Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway also owns our company, WPL.
Okay, shout out to Warren Buffett. I think he's like 95 years old. So, what I like about this is the fact that he is passing the torch. They actually have been planning this for years. They've been planning the passing of the torch for years. Most of you, if you follow Warren Buffett, there was a guy named Charlie Munger who just passed. So Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger ran the company for years, and Charlie Munger passed last year. And Warren Buffett is like, you know what? Let me pass the torch while I'm still alive. I appreciate that about him. I wish that more Black baby boomers would pass the torch to Gen X and millennials a lot sooner as well. I'm going to say it. We've got some people in Congress that need to pass the torch. We do. We do. We appreciate all the work they did for civil rights in the 60s and 70s. However, it is time to pass the torch. Some of these people, and you know who they are, have been have been in Congress or have been leading some of these organizations for years and years. And that doesn't necessarily mean like Warren Buffett, he's still going to be probably on the board of directors. He's still going to be one of the primary shareholders. He's still going to be active, but he doesn't have to hold the mantle of CEO. So, I did some research as well because I was trying to figure out sometimes they'll do stock buybacks and things like that. With the leaving of Warren Buffett, people I think that the stock went down a little bit, but then it rose back up again or something like that. I'm not completely certain. But I think that Berkshire Hathaway will be fine. I do. And I think that it'll be just as influential. So, the other thing I will say, as UMBWs, we always talk about having multicultural networks. Some of you are in the position to be the successor for profitable companies. And I want to encourage you that if you are in a position to be the successor for a profitable company, then as long as it's a good working environment, play your position. because there are going to be UMBWs who are going to be able to get into these really good positions, because as Warren Buffett passes the torch, other people are going to start passing the torch as well. So Mackie is in the building asking, do you believe that we should return to multi-generational living arrangements so that children, parents, and grandparents are all cared for well? I do, as long as the house is a peaceful place and not toxic. And as long as parents and grandparents can agree with regards to like the overall, how is the household going to run? I do think that the best thing for families is going to be multi-generational living, especially as things get expensive as I don't know what. It is going to be better. You could have grandma's Social Security coming in and she's paying for maybe the utilities. And then you, as the parent, you could be paying for the mortgage. And then the kids are, of course, doing their thing. I do believe parents, mom and dad living together, as long as, again, it's not toxic, as long as he is a good man, then trying to stay together, it's going to be financially advantageous to everybody. Yes, absolutely. And then when you get the McMansion, it makes sense for you to have 3,500 square feet because you have 7 people or 6 people in the house, right? So Ron is saying Gen X needs to take over. I agree with that. I'm almost 50 and I'm Gen X. So I would have time between the age of 50 and 65 where I have energy. I still have my wits about me. I can be in leadership, and I can also help you who are 30 now get to the point where you're ready to take leadership in 10 to 15 years. So, yep. Mackie is saying living solo may not be the best option for saving money. Sharing living expenses is how some groups are able to do well. This is true. This is true. As long as it's a peaceful environment, like I said before, as long as it's a peaceful environment. So I did want to share this with you here. This is Berkshire Hathaway versus the S&P 500. So people are asking like, what's the big deal about Warren Buffett and why do people talk about him so much? So, in annual gains from 1965 to 2024, the S&P 500 grew 10.4%, which isn't bad, but Berkshire Hathaway grew 19.9% per year. So that just means if you had, or your parents or grandparents had, let's say $1,000 in Berkshire Hathaway in 1965, y'all would be well, well positioned, paid. Let me do a little calculation really quickly. I'm going to actually go into ChatGPT and ask this question. So y'all can come in here. If I put $1,000 into Berkshire Hathaway stock in 1965, what would it be worth today? Let's see. Searching the web. It'd be worth $42.1 million today. 1965 share price was around $19 per share. So there you go. There you go. So that's why people talk so much about and to Warren Buffett, because the results are there for themselves. All your grandfather had to do was put $1,000 into Berkshire Hathaway, one purchase of stock for $1,000 in 1965. You wouldn't have to work. I wouldn't have to work. We'd be straight. We could honestly keep our money in the stock and just live like get 4% per year and just live off the dividends. Even though I don't think they've given dividends out in a while. But hey, Mr. Shelley, hello, how you doing? So, all right, ladies, let's talk about the final thing. These birth rates. Who's been following the story about these birth rates? There's a woman named Bourbon Bougie. Do y'all follow her on YouTube or TikTok? She says, let the birth rate plummet to hell. I get a good laugh out of that. But I will say this with regards to the birth rates. The birth rates are low. And I am concerned that certain people are going to do certain drastic measures in order to increase the birth rates. It's not going to happen today. You all can let me know on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, yeah, Cherie, I think you're right. 1 being like, no, Cherie, I think you're like off, seriously, right? But I believe in the next 10 years, there are going to be some very, very drastic measures to get the birth rate up. Again, you can put 10 in the chat if you believe that I might have a point. Put a 1 in the chat if you think I am that this is not going to happen, right? Now, we can have the conversation whether or not it's going to just be white women or if UMBWs are going to be dragged into it or Black women overall. I hear a lot on social media, white women, white women, white women with regards to this. In this article, it says that Black births are down as well. And I have my thoughts about what's going to happen with regards to Black women. But I am here to say this to you. If you don't hear anything else I say, I want you to listen to this. I want you to get skilled up and I want you to get your resources up because it's 2025 right now. By 2035, like right now, they're asking us nicely or asking you nicely, I'm no longer fertile, right? But if you're going to be fertile in 10 years still, you had better be paying attention to this. Right now, they're asking nicely. Right now, the algorithms are pushing up the trad wives with their blonde hair and their big boobs. I haven't seen them push any Black trad wife content or much of it, right? But there are people that are being pushed on social media. The men who want the trad wives, those things are getting pushed on social media. They're asking nicely. The administration is offering you $5,000. You can let me know if you'd have a baby for $5,000. But the administration is throwing all sorts of stuff out that hasn't worked in other countries to get the birth rate up, right? There's going to come a point where now I'm not saying or suggesting that they're going to hold you down, right? But I am saying there's going to be more and more roadblocks put in place to get the birth rate up. I'm also here to say that everybody that I have heard talk about the birth rate, pro-natalist people that I've heard talk about the birth rate, whether or not, well, there are some people that I listen to that I don't believe are white supremacists. I believe that they are talking about the economy, right? And economically, we got to get the birth rates up, right? This is an economics issue, blah, 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 right? Black people feed the economy too. Black people feed the US economy too. So if they're worried about the total amount of consumers, ladies, and you're a fertile woman and you believe you're going to be fertile in 10 years, Black people are consumers too. There's going to be a certain amount. This is stuff I should say on that I should say in Zoom and not on YouTube, but I might as well say it. There are people who make money off of Black degeneracy, Black people going to jail, Black people going to prison for 20 to life. Later on in one of the graphs, they show that Black birth rates are down. And it can't be Roe v. Wade anymore. And the Black rates are still going down. Do you think those people are going to sit down and allow their prison stocks and certain stocks to just go down? That's a conversation that you just need to be aware of. You need to be aware of. I'm not telling you to hoop and holler on social media or in life or anything like that. If you want to have children, I am team have children, do it in a manner that is going to be a good environment for you and for those children you're bringing into the situation. Yes, I prefer my UMBWs do it in marriage, but if you choose not to, if you choose to be single, okay. I am telling you right now, though, that you have a group of people who are very powerful who are looking at this as an economic issue and only an economic issue. And you're going to have to be in a position to make a move. To make a move. It may be a physical move, or it may just be setting yourself up so that you're not on some list. And the one thing you can't control is the point where you're no longer a fertile woman. That's nature, right? And the people who are talking about the birth rates and we got to get the birth rates up, they do not mention, for the most part, because I've listened to a lot of them. That's the one thing I've listened to a lot of them. They do not mention when the kid gets here, how you going to take care of the kid. They don't mention that. They don't care about it. They just gloss right by that. It's just liberal women are sad and lonely, and the birth rates have got to get up. So we've had our conversation about this. I'm going to show you some of the charts, but I'm going to read some of your comments here. Oh, so you're saying you follow Bourbon Bougie, you don't follow her. I like her. I like her content. She does a lot of relationship content. And then she does a lot of like birth rate content globally. Globally, the birth rates are down everywhere. So I like listening to her content for the birth rate stuff. Flo Jersey is saying, yes, I follow the birth rates in many countries and also watch Bourbon Bougie. Mentor Shelley listens to her as well. So Rana put a 10 in there that she thinks I'm on the right track. So does Flo Jersey. Then Rana said 7. I don't know. Rana, you can let me know what your updated thoughts with regards to this are. Denise is saying 10. Asia, the Asian women didn't post anything on social media. The Asian women are just in action. The Korean women are just like, no. And there are major cultural shifts that have to happen. The Japanese, I just saw the documentary, I think 60 Minutes just did it, where there hasn't been a child born in this one town in Japan in 20 years, something like that. I mean, imagine a child not being born in a town in 20 years. And they were talking about how the different residents were like, dealing with that in the aging population. Uh, Flo Jersey is saying it will be all groups of women, but certain groups will be targeted more and sooner. Now, I agree with that. I agree with that. Absolutely. Get your coins together. Get your resources together, ladies. Ron is saying she'd do it for 50,000, but not 5,000. So again, just being aware that they're not offering you any additional help with health insurance. Is not 50,000 a year. We'll see what happens with the child tax credits and all of that stuff. But yeah, Ron is saying they're going to find a way. They are. Denise is saying, I think daycare in Charlotte is over $1,000 a month. It's more than that. It's more than that, Denise. In the building. Hey, Purple Rain. Denise is saying, this is the first time I'm hearing of her. I will follow her. Yeah, she's pretty popular on social media. Yeah, Japan does have an aging population. Yes. They're also charging higher taxes to subsidize this. Absolutely. Absolutely. So America and the world, but America thrives off of consumerism, right? So how are you going to get more consumers? You're either going to birth them or you're going to let them immigrate into the United States. Well, there are certain powers that be that sees the immigration numbers and they're like, but if we do over a certain amount of immigration, the culture, the American culture is going to change as well. So, some of these people think they're going to live to 200 years old. They're going to cryogenic their body. Obviously, I'm talking out the side of my head, but but yeah, so I'm just telling you to pay attention, get your skills up, get your multicultural networks up, and get your resources up. So, especially if you're going to be fertile in 2035. That's all I'm saying. Purple Rain is saying, but it's putting a strain on the young and middle-aged workers. Yes. On the other hand, I do not believe women should have children that they do not want or cannot afford to take care of. And I um I am okay with the birth rate going down if that means that kids are not coming into the world who are not wanted. I just don't think that's fair. And to have people say, well, we should increase the birth rate, and you ask them why, and they say, well, because of the economy. I mean, like that's not a reason to have kids. It's not a reason to. Purple Rain is saying South Korea is also having low birth rates as well. Yes, we had talked about that. South Korea is really bad with regards to the birth rates. And a lot of that is cultural. A lot of it is cultural. Um, because of the division of labor between men and women, because of the work culture that South Korea has, it just isn't conducive to young people getting married and having kids. And South Korea really, really frowns upon single motherhood. And that's a cultural thing. That's why the first thing that all of these nations are doing, all of these countries are doing. Well, the first thing they tried to do was say, "Oh, it's just economics, and if we give women all of these things, then they're going to want to have kids," and that's not working. So now they have the cultural war that they're fighting. The cultural war is telling these people at Google and Facebook and TikTok to put the trad content front and center for you and make it look nice and make it look fun and tell you the good stuff and not the bad stuff and all of that, because if they can shift your mind and shift the culture, and it's not shift the culture for men to be better. I know that that's a big thing, right? It's not to shift the culture there. It's to shift the culture for you as a woman to say, to be scared to not have kids. They want young girls to have kids younger and younger. If you're listening to the content that's out there, and it's not the creepy old men that are saying this either. It's the people with the PhDs and the scientists and the super smart people that are going onto these YouTube channels with 1 to 3 million subscribers saying the same thing. So if anybody wants to come up, you can put a 7 in the chat, and I will, because I have like a few minutes this evening, I will give you the link. Otherwise, we're going to head on out. Denise is saying, I feel sorry for the next generation. Baby mother life will probably get rebranded. That's true. That's true. They've got the richest man on earth. All of a sudden, he has however many baby mamas, and now all of a sudden it's a cool thing to be a baby mama. But okay. Let's see what you all are saying. Trad life content is definitely being marketed to Gen Z. This is exactly true. So, and younger millennials, right? Oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to work anymore. I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna stay at home. I'm gonna be a trad wife. Okay. Okay. And I'm not saying don't stay at home with your children. I would never say that. You're a mom, you want to stay at home with your children? Definitely do that. Definitely stay at home with your kids. What I would say to you, however, is it is dangerous for you to be 100% financially dependent on a man. If you want to stay at home with your children, you are able to get a skill where you can work from home and have some money coming in. Right? Purple Rain is saying they're so slick with it. You'll be watching a getting ready with me video and they will slip in how feminism is a scam. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Purple Rain is saying, but even with sprinkle, a lot of the girlies are lying. This is true. And financial abuse is very, very real. And that, to me, is the scariest thing that you can do, is to be 100% financially dependent on a man. Because if it turns to abuse, then what? So, Rana, welcome.
Hi, good evening, Miss Sherry. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm on my summer off of classes, so I passed all my classes, so I'm great with that. Yeah. So I'll have to say, like what you mentioned, I think what they're trying to do, as someone mentioned, Purple Rain said, like they're targeting the trad wife thing towards millennials and Gen Z. And since, I have a feeling I'm still going to be fertile in the next 10 years or so. So I think not only that they're attacking them, they're going after child feed women, or women who wants, thank you, Purple Rain, or women who wants, whatchamacallit, who doesn't want any children, who's child free, who decided not to get married. And they're coming after them. And some of the men, and I say in public in real time, were they're getting, like, you can hear by their voice that they're getting scared, because they'd be like, oh, it's impossible to make 6 figures and blah, 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 blah. And this is like a different ethnic group of men. These are not like I don't know if I can say this on your thing, but these are not like black men. These are like different ethnic group of men. So they're saying this stuff in real time. So not only that, I knew in the next 10 years, they are really going to come off aggressively and give us a name for it. And another thing, I remember pre-election, right? When all the campaigning was going, some of the millennials during our time, it was girl boss, girl boss, independent, whatever. Now these singles boss were crying and said, I want a soft life. I want this. I want that. And the thing is, they don't understand is like the real woman who's living the soft life, they're making 6 figures or above.
Yes.
And they don't see that, those are the real women who live in the real soft life. And then at the same time, I would say with Mrs. Sprinkles, I have to give her credit. She does tell you to say, hey, have more self-esteem in yourself. And she gives you the tricks of the dating game and say, yeah, sometimes you may want to marry a man that's have a salary above you. But other than that, if you think just sitting there looking pretty, you will set you up for financial abuse. And, financial abuse is really real. Then you can't leave.
That's right.
And like, Miss Sprinkles said it herself to save your money. She said it herself in her. And this is a problem with some of the Miss Sprinkle followers, because don't get me wrong, I watch her from time to time, but they don't really pay attention to the whole video that she posted. So I remember she said, beware of men switching up. So yeah. So that's what I tend to notice. So for me now, I would say, since I'm a millennial, I'm glad I'm going to a field that I know I will have a job, but I know that I have to network and get my skills up, because it is going to be very difficult for the next 10 years. And it's funny how you mentioned how people who want more babies say it's because of the economy. These type of people show up on my campus one time, and I talk to them, and they say, "Oh, I have a common ground." But for me, that's just all on deaf
I'm going
ears.
to ask you to stay on mute, just until Rhonda finishes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So, they were saying, what they were saying, like they were trying to find common ground, but it's all on deaf ears, because I said the problem is. So I explained to her the problem is people cannot afford to have children. So sometimes they will do the A word. Some of them will be raped and do the A word. They cannot afford. And some of them, if a lot of stuff have been cut in our country when it comes to WIC, think about it, WIC, Department of Health, depending on what state that you live in, I'm sure there's a lot of cuts. And they say, well, and I told her, the worst thing I'm concerned about is women around my age and Gen Z going to trying to get the A word and end up dying in the streets. And I said, well, that's not happening now. Yeah, it may not happen now yet, but it's just a matter of time. The difference is, the reason why it's not happening now is because they're playing abstinence. They're just not dealing with men anymore. If you see on TikTok the girlies who, like, if you see weddings nowadays, where when you do the bouquet, when women just throw the flowers, some of the women are running away from it. So they don't want to get married. Some of them just want to be single and live life and child free. But I would say this, like, I agree with you. Like, you have to get your tech skills up, and not just get your qualifications, but your tech skills, your soft skills, because it's going to be very difficult for everyone. So yeah, I think I'm done talking. I think someone should go next. Whoever. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ron. I'm going to ask. Yeah, you went on mute. Purple Rain.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, hi. But yeah, I definitely agree with the other lady in terms of like it's gonna get real, but I feel like because we're in America, and I also think like as somebody who's African, we're very used to sudden regime changes, and I feel like we here in the US, you guys have had the privilege to not have to like worry too much of like what can like what's the worst case scenario every single time. But I guess just to speak on the whole trad wife thing, yeah, it's getting like they're being more in your face because like I said, you could just be watching a video and you'll think like, oh, like she's just sharing her routine, and you'll think like everything's fine, and then she'll say something like, women shouldn't hate men, and men are having a male loneliness epidemic, and you'll just be like, huh? But like they're appearing in the same way as like people you know, like maybe like people you see every day, like you would not suspect them of having these types of views, but they do. So I think to say to like some of the girls and for the women and femmes everywhere, like definitely read up on laws and definitely understand like if you're going to interact with men, like you have to understand like what you're legally entitled to and what you aren't, because unfortunately like even like there's something called fault versus no fault divorce. Some states want to get rid of that, so
Mm.
you can't say like, oh, this person is abusive, I'm trying to leave. They can just be like, well, that's not a real reason, but it's real. Like, and I want the girls to like definitely educate themselves on family law, like understand how your local DOR works, because like even right now they having the issue with the Department of Education and them trying to get back the loans and stuff, like they're from people who were defaulting. They can definitely wipe out your accounts. Like they know where you are and they can put tax liens. So definitely like be, financially set. Make sure you're getting more skills. And I think if we're talking about like the ones that are like the easiest, not in terms of like easy as in like it's an easy subject, but tech is somewhere where you can go in and you can just learn. Like you don't have to like be degreed into it. And I would definitely look into like going to your local like law library so you can look at case studies of maybe like similar things happening in your town so you can prepare ahead of time. So definitely like get ready so you don't have stay ready so you don't have to get ready is like what I wanted to say. But I do like your platform. Like I learned so much from everybody here and everybody's so nice. And definitely keep being upwardly mobile, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Purple Rain. Yeah. So, um, I do want to make one comment based on what Purple Rain has been talking about, and that is do not assume because you do not want to get married and have children that this is not going to affect you. That's the big thing that I wanted to make sure that I just had you think about this evening, which is they need to get these numbers up by any means necessary. And if you're going to be fertile in the next 10 years, even if you don't want to have kids, you do need to be paying attention to what's happening. So I just want to make sure that everybody is in line with that. So, my world, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, I was glad, and I'm always glad to hear whenever you talk about Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett and Charlie T. Munger. I had a feeling when Charlie passed away that Warren, Warren was going to retire or pass away soon. They're like an old married couple, when one passes away, the other one does too. And he has been getting his replacement ready for years. And, I I heard or I saw different people or no, you were talking about different people who are like, why are people always talking about him? What's the big deal? And when I was right out of undergrad, the first guy I dated was an older white guy, and he owned an investment company, and he told me way back then in 1999 to invest in Berkshire Hathaway. And I couldn't afford the A stock or the B stock back then. Well, let me not say I couldn't afford. It was more important to me to be flossing than to invest. And so I didn't listen. And of course, had I listened, this is 30 years later, I would be retired by now. But it's always good to hear you talking about, things other than what people normally talk about in well, I say Blackistan, but in the
You can say that
demographic.
here. That's
Okay, yeah,
fine.
I know some people find it offensive or whatever, but yeah. The other thing that you all were discussing that I thought was important is, someone was talking about sprinkle, sprinkle. I think, unfortunately, a lot of Black women do not, either are not willing to, or something, there's a disconnect between what it takes to be a kept woman, like the kind that she's always talking about, and the reality. So I had a friend who was engaged to a guy worth 9 figures. She's Black, he's white. She was tremendously younger than him and tremendously beautiful, and one of those full-time baddies kind of thing, but not the Black aesthetic baddie, the rich millionaire white aesthetic baddie kind of thing, which is totally different than the Black aesthetic baddie. And I think the work and the diligence that it takes is something a lot of Black women don't want to do. It's not that I don't think it's unattainable. I just think we don't even know what it takes. We don't realize the importance of weight and pulling men that are literally rich enough to retire you. So I think it is important for Black women to be self-sufficient, because most of us are not going to do the work that it takes, either on the outside or on the inside, to pull men that can literally change our whole lives. So I know Black women often buy into the sprinkle, sprinkle, kind of way of life, but I think we buy into it on the shallow end, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. It
Okay.
does. I also, and this is controversial, but I don't care. Shira 7 fits a certain aesthetic as well.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this is someone who
Yep.
is not looking like Shira 7, right?
Yeah, I look more like you. Like, you and I look like we could be sisters.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, does that mean I could never? No. However, is it infinitely more difficult? Yes. Um, Especially if I'm looking for a Black man. Now, if I decide to go and, you know, uh, explore, other ethnicities, then the chance is greater, but it's still difficult,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And it's okay. It's okay for us to say, you know what? Um, I'm okay with now. I believe in equally yoked, right? If you're going to get married, then marry someone you are socioeconomically matched with, because too many of us do not do that, right?
Yeah, we
But
date
beyond,
hypogamously. Yeah.
yeah, yes, but beyond that, if you make 120 and he makes 120 and he's a good decent man and he takes out the trash and you wash dishes or whatever it is, girl, and you're like, yes, I want to get married, I want to have kids, I want to have a family, girl, do it. I am not the person to tell you not to live your dream like
Yeah,
that.
but Shuri, unfortunately, the reality is most Black women, we are the most enrolled. I hate when I hear people say we're the most educated, because that's not true. We're the most enrolled.
Mhm. Hello?
So we are remedial when it comes to love relationships. So you will have a woman making 120 plus with a man that is not fit to drain her bathwater. That
I
is what I
agree.
see all the time in Blackistan is Black women. Okay, so I don't even date Black men anymore. I've totally given up. To me, it's a fairy tale. It doesn't exist anymore. For someone who looks like Shira, we know that Black men pedestalize women that look like that, biracial women who barely look Black kind of aesthetic. You know what I mean? So if you're interested in dating a Black man, and when Shira and James started dating many decades ago, it was a different world. And the girlfriend that I was telling you about that, is with a guy that's worth 9 figures, she looks nothing like Shira. She's dark skinned. She's a size 0 or maybe a size 2, big boobs, a lot of plastic surgery, all that kind of stuff. But she has the aesthetic to pull rich white men or rich
Mhm.
non-Black men. And Black women, we don't want to push away from the table. We don't want to, it's just so much stuff we don't want to do where we're just like, I'll just be fat and single, or I'll just be, whatever and single. And so, unfortunately, I don't see a lot of Black women who at least date. Hypergamy means on your level or greater. I don't see a lot of Black women who even date men on their level, whether it's interracial or not. I'll see Black women who go across the color divide, and they go across the color divide and they're still struggling. Like, what was the purpose? If you're gonna date interracially, he should at least have some money. Like, what are you doing? But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, I agree with you there. I agree with you there. And I will say to women, and I'm saying this as an obese woman as well. Um, it doesn't mean you have to be a size 0. If you could get to a good size 10, depending on your physicality, right?
Yeah.
I see women who are a good, healthy size 10, 12 pull six-figure men. Now, that six-figure man may be an accountant. He may be, a contractor, um, anything like that. But yeah, it's totally possible. It's
Yeah.
totally possible.
And I guess what I'm saying is okay, so I'm obese as well. I'm like a good 18. I've been trying to
Mhm.
a couple of years ago I was like a 10 when I was on some kind of medication to help me lose weight. The medicine that's really popular now. And it's not good for your health. So I'm back to just my regular eating, and here I'm back up to an 18. So I'm too big, and I know this, to pull the kind of men that I want to pull. Yeah, the size 10, you can pull a guy that makes 6 figures. When you're
Mhm.
into the 9 figures, when you're into the he's worth at least $100 million, he can fly you anywhere kind of lifestyle, those guys have a very certain aesthetic that
Yes.
you have to have. And so, unfortunately, my friends are just like, they're like me. They're like, girl, I'll just be fat and be single. Like, I'll just eat my fried chicken and be single and not struggle, because I just see so many women who, when it comes to love, all their boundaries and standards go out the window. It just makes no sense how Black women will go to college, get degrees, move out the ghetto, do all the things, but when it comes to love, we just mismatch, and nobody can tell us anything, you know?
So I will make one final comment, then Purple Rain came back up, so I want to let her speak. And that is that if and look, I'm not looking for a man, so that's just me. But if a woman does want love, but she's like, yeah, but I'm just going to sit here and eat my fried chicken, it's most likely because she does not believe she can get it. Not necessarily that she's not worthy of it, but if I were to line up 10 of them and have a conversation with them, I bet you 8 of them would say, I believe if I gave up my fried chicken and I became a size 6, I would still not pull the person I would want to pull. It's a lack of belief that that person is out there. And if I just do the things that I need to do, he's going to be there. And there are a lot of different reasons for that. I think social media really either it exacerbates it or it's a mirror based on society. And it's like, well, she's a size 6 and she pulled that. So, yeah, let me eat my fried chicken. But that's my spidey senses telling me that 8 out of 10 women, that's what's happening. Purple Rain, you had something else to say?
Yeah, I definitely still agree with like what the ladies on the panel are saying. I definitely do see that, but what I will say that I feel like it might also be a regional thing, and as also I think it could also depend on like whether you're in America versus like in Africa. I will say that because in Africa, at least where I'm from, West Africa, the women there are very much like you guys, and they're still pulling. Like even I think the richest woman in Africa, her name is Full Run Show, and she looks like the typical. lady from our country, and like we're known for our big curves, our dark skin, like all of those things. And she was able to get oil contracts. So I definitely don't think it's a deterrent, but I can definitely see what you guys are saying because Shira is, I'm assuming, in Texas, and she's light skinned, and she's also has like the ambiguous thing going on because I heard she's also like Puerto Rican and black. So black men typically put people like her on a pedestal. So I can see why she can get away with the things that she advises to people because of just like the way she looks versus like a lot of us dark skinned girls, like we can't talk in the same way and get the same response out of these men. But that's why I feel like a lot of the girls should, look into other races and at least open up their dating pool. Because if you're just honing in on just black men, just from a statistical standpoint, it because literally I think they just did a new like study that came out and they were saying that there's less black boys going to college. And I go to a PWI, so I literally see it. And I feel like most people, even when it comes to sprinkle, I feel like they're not really looking into the 7 figure, 8 figure, 9 figure types. I feel like it's mainly the 6 figure men that they're after. Because some of the things they will say, I'm like, in a high cost of living state, those don't, that doesn't pull over here. Like, oh, like 6 figures, like the houses cost 1.5 million and it's not even in a rich neighborhood. And I'm also looking at it from like economics kind of standpoint and also just like looking at like the history of black people in America and why we see a lot of those things. But I definitely do agree that sad because it's like I do agree with Lynn.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, I'm
you were
just
saying
like
something
wrapping up.
else?
Yeah, I was just wrapping up, but basically, I was saying like I agree with my world. I think a lot of black women do struggle with dating on their level, so I can see why that's a problem. But I think just to sum it up, in terms of sprinkle, like if you are gonna do that, you need to have a clear strategy and you need to be honest with yourself with what you can actually realistically pull and what you need to do to get there because it is a competition. So if you're not willing to do that, that's totally great. But I think just like a question for the panel is more so like when it comes to like 4B, I'm wondering how practical is that here in the US basically? Like what does 4B look like in terms of like women being self-sufficient, having our own and doing that? Because I think we can do that. I think we are already doing that. But I'm wondering how do you get to a point where like you're not even interacting with men at all? Like it's only women firm, like you know what I mean? So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I don't sorry, Miss Sherry. When you mentioned 4B, I think depend on the woman, like I was saying, public real time. I don't think it's as practical. They may say it online, but they don't put in the work into it. I mean, I'm sure even on the TikTok girlies, there's some TikTok girlies who decide, hey, I decided to, be child free and whatever, but some of them, they just still revert back to dating and having boyfriends. So, and they're still having sex. So, you know, I don't think it's that practical um in the real world. So, probably like maybe a few percentage would do all of that 4B, but other than that, I don't think they are. I could be wrong, but it's just only time will show and tell. And I also agree with my world when black women has an issue when it comes to dating. So they will date like they will make like a good salary and whatever, but they still date down. So I don't think that I think that's the main issue with black women. we're smart in everything, but when it comes to relationships, we're not really that strategic and smart. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that in here, but that's what I tend to notice, which is sad, unfortunately. But other than that, I agree with what you ladies are saying on the panel.
Well, there's a difference between being book smart and street smart. And when I do my series, for example, on book smart but man dumb, I do it in order to contrast. So my world is right that we can be the most enrolled, we could even be the most degreed, but that does not mean we are the smartest. Okay. Um, because those are very different things and there's different kinds of smart. And I am going to read a couple of comments here. Uh, you all know we don't talk about relationships too much. So I think it's very interesting that we ended up with the birth rate discussion and then we rolled right back to relationships. But the final question, sorry, the final thing I will say is to Purple Rain, who asked about 4B. 4B is not realistic at all, period. You cannot in life interact without interacting with men. If you just think about your regular day to day to day, it doesn't even have to be romantic. It could just be regular interactions. That is a very difficult thing. The other thing that I will say to you is that you can have men in two different buckets. There are the men that are just on earth that do certain things like fixing the roads and, you know, drilling for oil and things like that. Those things are necessary. So when we're UMBWs and we're thinking strategically, we really do have to think strategically. Like men cannot live without women and women cannot live without men. So we need to like stop that on social media because it's you know um it's annoying to me, let's just say it like that. uh if you're looking in your personal life, could you live a life where you are not married, not dating, not having kids? Yes, you could do that if you want to. I've been celibate for years. Not a problem. I don't skip a beat, right? But I was married at one point, right? I've lived my 20s and I've lived, my early 30s, right? And now I'm close to 50. I don't think if you haven't lived and enjoyed that part of your life and you're just like, okay, well, now I'm over it, um, or not necessarily over it. It's just, I'm at a different stage in my life. Well, that's when the girls on YouTube or social media are saying they're doing 4B and they're not actually doing it. There's a certain maturity that comes to that. I was going to say something about Mentor Shelley because I see she's here, but maybe not. But yeah, there's a certain maturity that comes with being able to actually be 4B. And it's okay if you don't want to be 4B, at least on this channel. If you're a UMBW and you're like, I want to get married, I want to have kids, then I applaud that and put yourself in position and to actually get somebody who is worthy of that. So um, I'd love for, because I don't like to go more than an hour, 30 minutes. I'd love for the three of you to tell me something we discussed tonight or that you're thinking about that is not relationship oriented. Could be birth rate discussion that we had, but that's not relationship oriented.
Can I go first?
Yeah, sure.
I'm about to get in the shower. Well, does it have to be what we've already talked about or no?
It could be anything, just as long as
I
it's not
think it's
relationship oriented.
okay. I think it is ironic that Blackistan is upset that a white woman was able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for calling a thief with a racial epithet. But Blackistan also is condoning a black teenager unaliving a peer and his family or whoever being able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. So yeah, the logic, we don't have it. I am black myself and I have black fatigue at this point. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Well, I will just say that I agree. However, I'm also understanding, especially because my whole name and everything about me is on this channel, that I'm going to keep my comments to a very, very, very minimum with regards to that. But I have noticed that as well. I have noticed that as well. So, Rana or Purple Rain, who wants to go next? Something
I'll
outside of relationships.
stagnation. When you mentioned with what's going on in the country with stagnation with tariffs,
Stagflation.
stagflation. I'm sorry,
That's okay.
stagflation. So yeah, I just noticed that some of the medications are from India, not just China, but some of them. Like there's, I heard. I don't want to go and I want to make sure I just dive into it. So it's being more difficult for some people to send the medication to our ports. But
Mhm.
because we're having this tension between our allies, it's going to be more difficult to get medication for people. They may not say it now, but I think maybe in the next year or two, it may happen. So, and another thing, I think that people should start stock up perishable goods, uh, because I noticed with the TikTok girlies or the TikTok folks, if you live in the inner cities, I don't know if it hits them yet or not, but some of them who lives in the inner cities have empty shelves of food, and I think that you just need to prepare. I'm not saying that people shouldn't panic by now, but like just be prepared for what, you know, for what can possibly happen, since the ports are not coming in for now, I would say. But other than that, I think when it comes to stagflation, that it's very important that um t- tech up your skills, um you know, build up your soft skills, tech skills, and make sure you do very well in academica, and just avoid, and this has been noticed on my campus, just avoid people trying to rage bait you into politics, or race bait you into politics. Because I experienced something quite similar in real time, but because I didn't give the reaction as this other person wants me to react, it looks bad on her. So just be careful when you're in like work or academica, because people I think people are just losing their jobs, and people are just losing opportunities because of that. So just be extremely careful.
Absolutely. Purple Rain.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that everybody is saying. I definitely think like in terms of the stocking up, I would even go as far as saying like if you like something and it's non-perishable, even in terms of like hygiene items, get those in bulk because even I've noticed that there are like even the stores are experiencing shortages like in terms of like maybe like pads, like stuff like that. Like you have to like definitely like buy stuff in bulk now, I'm noticing, because you could come 1 week and think like, oh, I'm gonna just do my regular grocery shopping and everything's gonna be good. But then next week you come, they might not have tomatoes. So but those things are perishable food. So I would say like if you like something, even in terms of like buying stuff on Amazon or online, like getting stuff shipped, like now they're putting how much the tariff is gonna like cost you basically like when you go and purchase. So I would definitely look into that. And I would also like for the girlies in education and higher education, definitely like try to get in good with your professors, but I would definitely look into the professors on your campus who are actually like they're active in the field. Like they're not just like at professors who did a paper 20 years ago, just like, you know. And then in terms of the girlies, in terms of like relationships, like definitely be careful and look into like patterns and also like do more reading in terms of like research and definitely look into the books and also I guess like a cybersecurity thing. Be careful when you're going and scanning like your phone for like Apple Pay and stuff or like you know how some places you go to they want to scan something and be careful with that because even which is really interesting I did see that there's like a new gym that opened and apparently like it's a super expensive gym in New York City. But guess what? In order to go in, they need you to scan your retina to get into the building. So like this is kind of like what I'm starting to see is like they're trying to get a lot of us our personal information and I am concerned about like the power grid as well. So if you guys can get your generators and like things like that, like definitely like look into it now because I'm pretty sure with the tariffs, all of like the electronics, if you're trying to build a house or you're trying to buy like appliances, all of those things are going to go up. So I would just say, like, try your best to plan as much as you can and to upgrade your skills. Even like playing around with ChatGPT and like learning more AI tools will definitely like help you as we navigate this news right. But yeah, thank you for the platform. I really enjoy your show, and I will leave. But thanks you.
Thanks, Purple Rain. Okay, ladies. So, Mackie is asking if I can do a live stream on romantic relationships and social class. Um, Black women making money and Black women making money need to be intentional about who they date and marry. Maybe. So I only do about, and this is purposeful. I will never go above 20% of the conversations we're having on this channel being about relationships because that's not the kind of audience I want to pull or anything like that. But would I be willing to do one? Yes. And I might bring an upwardly mobile Black man on here to kind of counterbalance when it comes to that. So I'll think about it. I'll think about it. I'm sure that Mentor Shelley, who is here, will kind of uh, pick and prod at me until we get that done. Um, Mentor Shelley is saying that the birth rate plummeting is in direct relation to how many women are deciding to live child free. Or, or I've been hearing a lot that it's not only that, but it's also that women are getting married later in life. And when we were women were getting married at 2021, they would have 4 or 5 kids because they were starting earlier. But if now you're getting married at 31, then you may only have 1 or 2 kids. So yeah. And a lot of women will say, "Oh, I want to get married," and then they never find the right partner. So yes, there's a lot happening here. So um, Purple Rain is right about also looking at getting external hard drives for all your files. I agree with that. I have stuff on the cloud. I do need to get an external hard drive, though. I do. I do. All righty then, ladies. Well, thank you so much for being here this evening. Put your UMBWs in the chat. I hope you also liked the video as well. Please hit the like button. Share it with a friend or two. We'll be back next Monday to talk about some other things that are going to be super interesting. And this whole channel is, of course, to help you get your money and your life together so that you could live a better life and live it, of course, without all the financial chaos. So thank you so much, ladies. I'll see you next week. Take care.